I got to get better about that. All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You guys, we are so lucky today. We get to talk to Dorianne from Your Career Girl. I am so grateful that Dorianne has blessed us with her presence. I know that sounds a little silly, but like really, this is a woman who I have watched over the last a little over a year because I didn't know Dorianne before that time. And I watched her a little over a year, just like, and she was already like killing it before I met her in all things probably life with, of course, I'm sure enough struggle. We all have struggle, but she just inspires so many women to just take their careers to the next level that it's just so incredible. It's so incredible because everybody needs somebody to help them realize their potential. Like they know it, but sometimes it just feels like it's not, like they just can't grasp it. It's just like right outside their grasp. And Dorianne has this magic about her to help women see exactly what their own magic is, and give them the permission to truly own into it and to take their career to the next level. So I am so excited. I couldn't possibly do her justice. She's going to introduce herself, but we are so lucky to have her. So if you are watching, please ask questions because you have no idea the kind of gold you might get from her responses. So Dorianne, thank you so much for coming on here. Will you introduce yourself to our group?
Yes, thank you so much, Mary, for the invitation. Super excited, thrilled to be here. My name is Dorianne St. Fleur, and I am a career and leadership development coach. And basically, I support and help ambitious women who are ready to take their career to the next level. I help them get the clarity, the confidence, and build the community they need in order to make that happen. And whether that is getting promoted, whether that's leaving a toxic work environment and finding that dream job, whether it's creating a side business to supplement their income or live out their passion, whatever the goal is professionally, I'm a firm believer that we have everything we need inside to do the things and get it done. As corny as that sounds, we do. And so I just help people get out of their own way, unlearn some of the beliefs and the stories and the lies, quite frankly, that we've been taught from childhood all the way up as far as what we can and can't do, etc. And I help them kill it in their careers. And I am a firm believer that it's more than just a career. Like my podcast is called Deeper Than Work. And so I focus on careers, but it's really focusing on life, because how you show up in this area of life where we spend 1/3 of our adult lives at work. We spend more time before the pandemic or the quarantine with the people at work than we do with the people we live with. If that's not working, if you're unhappy, then that impacts your life in so many different ways. And so I think it's important for us to really grab hold of what that is, what we want to do, and go out and do it. So I'm a coach, I'm a trainer, a facilitator, strategist, all of the things when it comes to living your best professional life.
Yes, you are. So, I mean, just kind of on a generic level, you gave this wonderful intro. Like, let's just kind of cut to the chase. Like, what woman, like when they come across your website or they come across your podcast or somehow they are like seeing your Instagram, she's got a great Instagram. Like, what woman usually is the woman that's kind of saying, Dorianne, I don't know, girl, but you are my lady. Like, what is it about them that they see you and they know, okay, Dorianne, I know you can help me. So like, what is this market or these women that come to you? Like, what are the things that they usually struggle with?
Yeah. So I primarily work with women of color. I work with men, white women, a lot of women, but primarily women of color. And I think one of the main challenges that they have is really, well, there's a few main challenges. One of them is just clarity. Just what do I do next? I've done all the things I should have done. I've gotten the degrees. I went up the corporate ladder. I've done the things, but I don't feel fulfilled. I feel stuck. I don't know what's next. I feel undervalued. So there's a feeling of I'm not where I should be. and not because for lack of trying. I just really don't know what's next. So there's a clarity piece, there's all of that. And then because of the lack of clarity, because of the toxic environments, because of the microaggressions, just the things they're dealing with, it trickles into now I've internalized these things and now I'm lacking the confidence. So I used to think I was amazing. I used to think I could get that promotion and get that raise and do those things. But now I don't even know if I'm worthy of that. I don't even know if I deserve that. Am I even good enough to get where I am, to get where I want to be? And so I think a lot of times it's either the clarity or the confidence or some combination of the two, and they just need that help. When a lot of what I talk about, even though I'm a career coach, it's a lot of mindset stuff, it's a lot of life stuff, it's a lot of like, it's not necessarily how to fix your resume. And so I think it just connects with these women on a level where it's like, I know the game wasn't made with me in mind. I know that it's not set up for me to win or to succeed, but I'm ready to do what I need to do though to navigate all of these things. And when they're at that space and they hear about the success stories of my clients, the success stories of my own career, when they hear about the mindset shifts that they need to make, it really just resonates with them, and then they're ready to do the work and do what it takes to change the trajectory of their careers.
Yeah, so you've mentioned this a couple times, like clarity. And, I think the group that this is being kind of run in, right? It's about intuition and self-care and, basically all those things that are kind of woo-woo, right? But clarity is such a huge thing, no matter whether you're coming at it from like a corporate angle or you're coming at it from a spiritual angle. Like, where can you be clear about like what it is you're trying to attain in this lifetime? And so I think it's really important that you brought that up. And I think that that's also very soul, like it's like a soulful place to come from, especially when it dealing with work. So when a client comes to you and they say something and you're like, oh, you have a clarity issue. Like, it's not, nope, your resume is golden, whatever. But you have a clarity issue. And they're like, what do you mean I got a clarity issue? I got, where do you find you are able to help people tweak that idea of like, it's not a clarity issue. I know I want this. And like, how do you help them see that what they think they want and what they really want might not be in alignment, and that's where the problem is?
Yeah, that's a really good question. My style so from the process to getting to work with me starts with either with myself or someone on my team, like a consultation, I guess, or discovery, or whatever, just to really explore what's happening. And during that time and subsequent sessions, but during that time, I ask a lot of questions. And sometimes it's not even me saying, oh, it's not that, it's this, it's them saying, oh, wait a second, that's not what I wanted. And I think what the issue is that as we, like, I have a daughter, she's 6 years old, and I noticed that a lot of what you do in childhood in that age, she's asking herself questions. She's like, wait a second, that doesn't make sense. Like, she trusts herself, she's changing her mind, she's doing these things. As we get older, we stop doing that, either because someone has symbolically beaten it out of us, or we just don't trust ourselves, we made mistakes, whatever it is. And we don't stop and ask ourselves questions. We don't reflect. We don't just explore. A lot of times, just that 30-minute consultation is the first time that people have asked themselves, what do I actually want? They kind of just are going through this process and doing all the things, but never stopping to say, but what do I want? Or if I'm saying that I'm stuck, why am I stuck? Or if I feel like I don't want to be here, why haven't I done anything to get out of it? We don't spend time. A lot of us don't have time to sit and reflect, and then we're just not doing it. And so I think just the process of asking, like, people give me so much credit for my coaching and all these things, and I'm just like, it's you. I'm just asking you questions and helping you see things in a different way. Yes, there's some strategies or things that I offer, but it's really like taking the time to reflect, ask questions, be okay with changing your mind, not feeling judged. It's just being in that safe space. So it's often them that they're realizing that, wow, I just heard myself, this so many times they say this, oh, I'm hearing myself say this out loud, and now blah, 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 blah. And they just, so much is in our heads. We don't talk to people, we don't get it out. And so I think that process of having someone talk to you, ask you questions, be a mirror, show you blind spots, is how people are able to see the direction they should go in. And yes, I'm not trying to discount and say there's no strategy to get clarity. There is, right? But for the most part, that self-reflection, journaling, answering and asking yourself questions is a key part of the process.
That just makes me laugh because it's so, that's like all the spiritual kind of people, like journal, ask yourself, get your answers. And it's like, here we've got a career coach who obviously is still coming from a soulful based place, but seriously, like just journal, ask yourself questions, allow yourself to answer. So I really appreciate that. So I would say one of the things that people in this group might be interested in is, how do you find your voice? As a woman of color, especially with now everything sort of coming to the surface. It's always been there, but hopefully we're dealing with it in a way that we will progress. But how do you help your clients find their authentic voice when they have so much to navigate in a very like white, fragile world?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this idea of finding and uncovering your voice is very central to a lot of the work that I do. And, the wins that my clients have, a lot of it is rooted in finally standing up for themselves and finding their voice. And so I think the first thing is really about unlearning. Like, we have been taught, so I'm a Black woman, I grew up in America, whether it was deliberately taught or just from what I see, that I have to not be too emotional because then I'll be seen as angry. So this is one example of something. And so for a long time, as I'm going through corporate America, I'm like, all right, don't say it like that. Even if you're not mad, they're gonna think you're mad. Like, just all of these things. And eventually what that did is just stifled. So now I don't say anything, or I wait till after the meeting, then I'll email it because I don't want it, like all of these things that are just in my head. And so I had to go through a process of unlearning. And it's so tricky because it's embedded in so much everywhere: TV, movies, books we read, everywhere. All of these kind of beliefs and stories that are not serving us. So I had to unlearn the things that aren't serving. And some of them are even through childhood, like, don't speak back to authority, and if they say this, you just do it. Like, I had to unlearn a lot of these beliefs that were not serving me and replace them with truths, with my truths, which is, first of all, I'm a human being. I have the right to experience different emotions. Sometimes that emotion is anger, and I don't need to feel bad about that. Yes, there's a way in which I should express that anger and all of those things, but no, you're not going to make me a bad person because I'm angry at something you did that was provoking. So no. Two, I think it's important to understand what's at stake. When I talk about with my clients, like navigating the political structures at work and all these things, a lot of it is just what is at stake. There have been times in my career where I was not in a position to get fired. I was not in a position to lose my job. So, okay, the way I'll respond to this situation and own my voice is going to be different than the way I would in another situation. As I've gotten older and more seasoned in my career, now I know, okay, well, I have some currency with these people. I built relationships. So if I do this, I'm actually not going to get fired. Or if something were to happen, I know how to stand up for myself and sue these people, or I have savings, or I'll get another job, like whatever it is. Just what's at stake. Sometimes we go to the worst case scenario, and it's not necessarily that, and we haven't taken the time to. I have my clients play out the worst case scenario. Okay, so if you do this and it doesn't work, let's talk about what would happen. And sometimes they realize, oh, okay. And so I think doing that work before then actually understanding what you actually think, what is your voice. I just watched this documentary on Netflix called The Social Dilemma, which just articulated everything I was feeling and knew already. But there are a lot of us, we don't even know what our own opinion is. We don't even know how we truly feel about things. We don't know, do I want to be in my 9 to 5? Do I even want to be a business owner? Do I want to do, we don't even know. It's that all these things are forced on us. And so I think really taking the time to understand, do I actually even have an opinion on this? Am I really upset about this? Am I really upset? Is this really something I want to talk about? Just knowing yourself, understanding what your point of view is, understanding what you feel, and then exercising that, saying that, speaking up for that, even when it's uncomfortable. When I'm coaching people through salary negotiations, part of that process, or any negotiations, is to even, I tell them to even negotiate outside of that context. So if you're at a restaurant and you got the wrong order, say that. Say, practice just standing up for yourself in many situations. Or actually, I didn't like how that felt. Or no, that what you said, like, can you clarify what you meant by that? That feels offensive. Even though it has nothing to do with negotiation, it's about owning your opinion, owning your voice, standing up for yourself, and doing it in a way that doesn't always have to be combative. It doesn't have, sometimes it warrants that. Sometimes, yes, like, I'm angry and this is what we're doing, but just speaking up for yourself. I think for me specifically, that was a big lesson I had to learn. I remember, like, as a child getting my hair, I used to get my hair relaxed and the chemical would be burning my hair. And I was so afraid to say to the hairdresser, oh, that hurts, like, because she's in charge, she's the hairdresser, and like, I'm like 11, and then I'll get scabs in my hair after the fact. Like, it was that pervasive of, like, don't speak up, don't say anything, don't make other people feel bad, you're gonna make her feel bad if she did something. And so I think in all of the ways where you can stand up for yourself, speak up for yourself, do that. And it's just a muscle you need to really flex and build and develop to be able to get good at it.
Yeah, I think that's key. I think some women grow up really knowing how to use this. And then, of course, based off of race and based off of all the other things, there's that whole extra layer of, because there are certain things we feel like, yeah, I can speak up about this. And then certain things that we can't. And then there's this added layer. So I really appreciate that, because I think all of us as women, yeah, it's that little, practicing those little things of speaking up for yourself. Like, somebody says, well, you always like this casserole I make you. And you're like, I don't want to eat that for Thanksgiving. I just let you make it because it seems to make you happy. I don't want to eat it. Like, it's gross. Or, and like, even being able to say that to somebody who loves you so much, who's done something for you, but it's like, you shouldn't worry that you're offending them. You could just say, no, actually, I'm not interested in the green bean casserole anymore. Maybe I liked it once when I was 4. I've never liked it since. So yeah, it can be that simple. And I do think that a lot of times, especially in media, we see if there's a woman, or like in movies especially, right? In movies especially, if there's a woman who is standing up for herself, she is a total frickin' bitch. And nobody has the time for that person because they don't seem to care about anyone else. It's always because they're so selfish. It's never just, no, I actually ordered this meal and you brought this, or I ordered this meal without X and Y because I don't like raw onions. It's that simple. Like, take them off. You don't have to pick them off yourself. They shouldn't have been put on there. So I really appreciate that, because it's those small things that help us build that muscle.
Your point around just the movie thing is so, like, that is resonating with me. And even if you'll notice, like, they're not in a relationship, they're doing, like, so many things are wrong.
Yes.
They're going after their career, they're speaking up for themselves. And so what does that teach a 13, 14, 15, 16, 30-year-old about standing up for yourself and being, bossy, and being like, what does it teach you? That you shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And so I think we need to pay attention to, again, where our points of view come from, who's telling us how we should act and not how we, and what we should do and what we shouldn't do. I think it's very interesting.
It was funny. This is not about careers, but one of my daughters, I also have daughters. She's 5, and her neighbor friend told her that she was bossy one day. And she shut down, and I was like, who told you bossy's bad? And I was like, and how do you know that? Why didn't you just have, like, what we ended up having to have a conversation about is because she shut down. Later, I had to just say, you could have just had a conversation. You could have just said, I wasn't trying to be bossy. We had decided that we were going to play this, and I wanted to play this because we decided it, but we can change, we can change our minds, but this is what I like, just talk about it. And she was
Mm-hmm.
just like, she's 5. And I'm not a therapist, so I don't know levels of, but I was just trying to help her understand, like, okay, you took it as bad, but that doesn't mean it has to be bad. She just decided, like, maybe she just changed her mind. She changed her mind and she just wants to do this now, and that's okay too. We have
Mm-hmm.
to respect each other's needs. And so it was a really funny thing because you see that. I also noticed, is it that there was a book and it became a movie, and Meryl Streep played the director of the
Yellow light.
fashion. Yeah, and there was a comment about, like, it was like a comment of you seeing her, and it said, if this was a man, nobody would have complained about the way that
Mm-hmm.
she ran her business. And it was like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. So, so one of the things that you and I were sort of chatting about before we hopped on the call, was allowing yourself, not just to find this voice and to speak up, but allow yourself to give yourself grace as this is unfolding, like as this journey of you evolving into the woman that you are meant to be. Or I guess, you work with some men too. But as you're evolving, why does someone need to give themselves grace during this process, when it's like, we know we have to have a resume like this, we have to do it like this, we have to do it like this? What does that do, and how does that help them in the process of either landing the job that they're looking for, or moving up in the company that they already are at?
Yeah. So two things come to mind when I think about why we should be giving ourselves grace. And the first is that we control the process, but we don't control the outcome. And so the role that you want, the promotion, the raise, the business you want to build, the clients you want, all of those things, you literally cannot control them buying, them paying, them offering. You can't control any of that. What you control is your process and how you show up. And so to wrap your happiness, well-being, confidence, self-esteem around things that are outside of your control is just not sustainable. It just is not something that you can do. And so I think you have to take a deep breath and understand that there are things that I can control, and I'm going to do that. And for everything else, I have to just let it go. I have to. And I know people say that, it's like, but Dorianne, but I want to make the money, I have to do this, I need the raise, and da da da. And all of that is still true, but again, you're worrying and you're doing all of that stuff is not going to get you the thing. Can't give yourself a job offer, you can't give yourself the promotion, you can't. And so I think it's just understanding what you can control and what you can't. And then the other thing that comes to mind is just around honoring your pace. Like, we all have different timelines, different trajectories, different paces that we do things. I'm in a season right now where things are very accelerated. I'm super happy about that. There have been seasons where things were slower. Each season I'm in, that you're in, you have to honor the pace in which you are going. When things are accelerated, be grateful for it, do the things, lean into it, all of that. When things have slowed down, be grateful for it, lean into it. Like, it's just, we all do things in different times and in different ways. And I think, I feel like we're like talking a lot about like the media and things today, but I think things like social media, and it really reinforces that. We're looking at other people, it seems like it's happening more quickly, and we don't honor our pace. And we just need to give ourselves some grace. Understand that your journey is different from mine. I'm dealing with different variables, you're dealing with different variables. There's so many things that are happening, and we have to take a step back and really just not beat ourselves up. The way that we talk to ourselves, myself included, is so harsh, and we would never talk to somebody we loved like that. We would never say, oh, how dare you want to sleep in on a Saturday when it's in the middle of a pandemic and I don't know what's going on. Like, I literally beat myself up this past Saturday because I binge watched, I just found Silicon Valley. It's old, but I just got into it and binge watched like a whole season this weekend. And I was so mad at myself and all of these things. And I saw a meme that said, there's a lot happening right now. If you want to take a day off and disconnect, do that. And so it's just that reminder that in your career, in your professional life, and in personal life, whatever it is you're doing, stop beating up on yourself. Give yourself the grace and the opportunity. If you've changed your mind, if you want to slow down, if you want to speed up, if you want to be ambitious, if you want to dial it back, it's okay. Do what works best for you, and focus on the things that you can control, honor the pace that you are in, and give yourself the grace and the space to navigate that.
I think that's great because I think all of us have, especially, so my group, a lot of people, whether or not they have totally signed up and said, yes, I'm a perfectionist, like they're dealing with like the person who started the group. And so I'm like a recovering perfectionist, right? So this idea of pace and this idea of your journey and this idea of the timeline in which your life is going to go, it's really important to continually remind yourself that there's nobody to compare yourself with, and that it's just going to dim your joy. It's going to cause you anxiety and stress and possibly overwhelm, and then physical symptoms on top of it. So like just allow yourself to go at the way you're going, but keep going. Like don't not keep going. And I do appreciate this idea of, you know, even you who are very successful, you know, you have 2 businesses now, very recent, right? And I mean, honestly, like Dorianne has had this amazing career already, and you're so young, you know, and sorry, she just, you know, declined working at where she just was. And it's a very, very top, well-known place. You know, she was there. They even moved you there, right? Like they transferred. Yeah. They were like, we need this woman. They got you, but they weren't able to keep you. You know what I mean? Because you have a huge mission in this life. And so, you know, just even from you to say, hey, I was giving myself shit about taking a day off and really just like doing nothing important, but I was having a good time. Like I enjoyed it. And I think that's really, really, really big. And I believe from what I know about women of color, you guys are such hard workers. And it's like, if you aren't doing all the things for everyone, not just yourself, right? I mean, mothers do this, you know, women in general are caregivers, but you know, our women of color and our Black women, it's like you've been taking care of the community at large. It's not just your family. It's a very exhausting place to be, and allowing yourself the grace to recharge is really important. And so I think it's really, really good that you're reminding everyone to do that.
Yeah.
So one thing you mentioned that we had talked about before we hopped on this call was and I don't think of this as tricky. So that's why I didn't even think about this. But one thing is figuring out an exit strategy. You know, like if you have a job that you are not happy with anymore, or maybe you were trying to go for a promotion and you didn't get it, and you're like, well, you don't see my value here anymore. I need to go. Like the exit strategy can feel really probably very conflicting, right? There must be a lot. I didn't have that. I've never had that in jobs. I was like, hey, it was been fun. I'm going here now, you know. So how do you approach that with your clients to help them through that process? And you just went through that process too.
Yeah. I think it's so when people hear exit, when I tell people, I literally say, if you don't like your job, you should leave. And what people hear is go in tomorrow and quit. That's not what I said. I said you should leave. And depending on where you are in life, where you are with your finances, where you are with comfort level, risk, all that stuff, that leave can be tomorrow, or it can be in 6 months, or anywhere in between. And so what I mean by exit strategy is just really thinking about, okay, I've understood that this is not working for me. I understand that this is not it because of XYZ reason. Now, what am I going to do to get from where I am here in this toxic environment, or in this environment where I'm undervalued or underpaid, whatever, to where I want to be. And that process is the exit strategy. And I think people don't think, I think people underestimate how important and just strategic, and how much less stress and anxiety you can have by just putting that together. So for myself, as you mentioned, I was at this company and it's going well. It's not like there was something bad, but I knew that eventually I wanted to be working full time. And so while I was there for a year and some change, I had my exit strategy. It was a year-long exit strategy. And it wasn't that I'm just up and quit. Like, everything was calculated. How much money do I need to be making before I leave? What do I need to, we paid off our debt. We had student loans. We paid up our housing for the end till the end of the year. Like, just the practical things, and how much clients do I need? How does this work? Blah, blah, blah. Making sure the daughter's tuition, like, we did the strategy of that. So that was the finances. Then from a mental, a well-being or mindset capacity, getting the coaching I needed, because that's a big leap to go from I'm in the corporate world for 15 years. Now I'm going to be working on my own. What's going on in my head? And so I got that together. Then making sure that I built the relationships and the network at my job. I left on amazing terms. I still speak to people there, and ability and opportunities to work with people there. Like, that was all part of the strategy. Even working at this company, to have it on my resume, was part of the strategy. Like, just really thinking about what are the steps, what do I need to do, and it goes right back to clarity, because I knew what my calling is, how I want to exercise that calling. I was able to back into, okay, how do I get from working in HR and D&I and doing this work at these organizations to being a full-time entrepreneur? What's the process? And that was my exit strategy. And truth be told, my exit strategy was probably 3 years in the making, even before this last leg of it, because I built it. I knew what the end point was. I had the goals. I knew what the milestones were in order to get me to where I needed to be. And I think people, they just make either rash decisions and say, okay, they pissed me off today, so I'm quitting, or there's nowhere, or they make a rash decision, or they just feel like there's nothing else I can do. I'm just stuck. I need an income, so I just need to stay here. There's so many other options besides those two. And I think just putting that together and mapping out your plan is an underutilized skill in really getting the most out of your career.
So, as you were talking, let's just say, listening to Dorianne, and Dorianne has had some major, you've worked at some major places, you've had major roles at those places. And, like, I'm not at that level, Dorianne. Like, I don't even know how I would get to that level. And maybe they are never going to, because that's not really their path. Their path is for some, most of their energy and everything is going to be focused on something else. But what resources would you have for a woman who's like, okay, I want to make good money. I want to have a good job. I want to be respected. I'm not like corporate, like I'm not there yet. Like, I don't even know if I can do that. And what resources would you recommend for them if they're not, they don't think they look like you, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't think, like, I don't have the same background in school and education. I don't, but yet everybody can still, like, one of my siblings, she never went to college and she runs like an entire district as a manager, right? She just believed that she could, and she obviously, so what would you say is important for people who feel like they're probably holding themselves back in one way, but then of course society says you don't have this degree, or you don't have this, or you don't have that, you're not worthy of this job or that job. What kind of resources would you tell them to look into to get themselves to a place where they have a lot of personal, not only like confidence in what they have to offer through experience? You know what I'm trying to get at?
Yeah. I think if someone is thinking and feeling all of those things before they even go to any resources, do the things, you need to get your mind right. You need to unlearn. I love the example that you gave with your sister and all of these things. Like, there are people out here who are succeeding and doing amazing things, who don't have a bachelor's degree, who don't have didn't come from, you know, with a silver spoon in their mouth. That's not an, like, this is going to sound so, but that's not an excuse. That's not something that you should allow. I'll say it like that. That's not something you should allow to hold you back, because there are proofs. To me, I accept something as a truth if there's nothing that can negate it. And so if I can find 5, 10, 15 people who have moved up the ladder and done the things with no degree, then you saying that, oh, I can't do it because I don't have a degree, I'm sorry, I just can't. I can't. Because there are people who do that. And I'm simplifying it, but I just feel like there's an opportunity for you to find your lane. And please know, the women that I work with, there are women who went to the Ivy Leagues and who did all of these things and got all the degrees and still feel similarly to what you said. That's not the success factor. That's not what it is. It's about clarity, confidence, community, doing the work, the strategy, it's mindset. That's what it's about. I have people, like, sometimes the thing that I used to be really intimidated by was like schools. I went to a historically Black college. It's the best historically Black college, but it's not Princeton, Harvard. It's not these things. I used to have like inferiority complex with that, and it wasn't until maybe like 5, 6 years ago that I really started to just get over that. And especially seeing women, my clients, have these degrees and they're still like, I'm not worthy, this, that, I'm still getting looked over. That's not the deciding factor. And I just really want you all to just, we're using school as an example, but fill in the blank of the things. You can literally spin your experience in the way that you want. You can position yourself in the way that you want. I've positioned myself, as you mentioned, I'm young, I'm 36 years old, and I feel like the things that I've accomplished in my career is not necessarily normal. It's not necessarily what the path should be. And a lot of it, and I just have my little bachelor's degree. It's not like I'm doing all these things. And people ask me, are you going to get certified in this and that? I'm not knocking that. I think all that is great. But I just figured out very early on that it's more important for me to be able to position myself, for me to be able to brand myself, for me to be able to be confident in my abilities than it is for me to rack up all of these credentials and all of these sorts of things. That adds to it, yes, but sometimes we put so much focus and energy and importance on those things and not on anything else. So I would say the first thing is to get your mind right. You have to unlearn that you need a degree, a certain amount of money, a network, know a certain person, or be rich or whatever in order to succeed. You must unlearn that. That is like step number one. And then I think it's about building the network, understanding the right people, understanding, I would say invest in a coach or someone who's an expert to help accelerate your trajectory into the process, to help you. What is the strategy? How are you going to do this? And what options you have. A lot of times we only think that the options are, oh, go work at this big name company, work yourself up the ladder. There are people who career hack, who like let me go to the startup for a couple of years. I'm going to get promoted. Then I'm going to go here. You have options. And so I think just exposing yourself to what the options are. But after you get your mind right, is some of those are the key things that I would say.
I think that's really helpful because a lot of us, I mean, there's just so much that we are all capable of, and we are the ones that cap ourselves, you know? And I mean, even yesterday I had somebody message me and I just said, you just need to start believing in yourself. That's it. Like, that's all you need to do. Like, it's so simple. It sounds so ridiculous. Like, you just need to believe in yourself. But like at the level of which you and I are talking about, it's like a deep, like, no, it's unshakable. Like when it becomes unshakable or like less, like less shakeable, then like all of a sudden life just really opens up and it's like you can really enjoy the abundance that is available to us, like whether it's money, whether it's relationships, whether it's whatever. And I just really appreciate that you saying that, because I think a lot of people need to hear that from everywhere. It needs to come from everywhere. Like, you are worthy. And the only one who's, the only one who needs to matter about that is you believing that you're worthy. Nobody else. Even if your mother doesn't fucking believe in your worth, fuck it. Like, it's about you believing in yourself, because your mother has her own set of stuff, because we all come to the table with all of our shit. And so we have to allow ourselves to be great. You know, like, I just think that part of the journey of being here is
Speaking
that.
of mothers, my mother, which I love, if I literally listen to her beliefs and just the things that she says around what you can achieve and why you're moving to California and you're starting a business and what do you do? I would not be doing this stuff. And so people sometimes, they have the best intentions, but yes, they have their own stuff. My mother's an immigrant. She came here. She's just trying to she's like, come on, I'm a nurse. I'm keeping it safe. Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing right now? What do you mean you're quitting your job? And so, yeah, it honestly does not matter what other people think. It matters what you think. And if you don't believe that you can get that business, you can get that job, you can get that raise, then you will not, you won't. And it's that simple. And I know it sounds like, but no, it's that simple. I love hearing stories about like people who got told no 40 times and on the 41st time, because that's what it is. These billionaires and millionaires, yes, you know, there's privilege, there's opportunity network, but a lot of them, most of them, I don't care what you think. I don't care if you don't think this is a good idea. I don't care if I told you I'm binge watching the show Silicon Valley. Like, this guy for 4 or 5 years has been trying to get this. I don't care if you don't believe it. It's happening. And this is just what it is. You have to believe that you're going to be successful, that you are worthy, that you deserve to have the money, the relationships, the success, the family, whatever. You need to believe that. And believe is not passive. It's not, there's a difference between knowing and believing. Yeah, I know. Do you believe it? Do you believe it? And if you believe it, how do you act, right? When you sit on a chair, you believe it's going to hold you up. You don't test it. You just sit on it. Like, you believe that you're going to flip the light on. The light's going to come on. And how do you act when you believe you're going to be successful? How do you act when you believe that you're going to be a millionaire, right? What do you do? How do you respond to money? How do you respond to setbacks when you know that you're going to win anyways? We have a family motto: at the end of the day, we always win. And if you believe that you always win at the end of the day, when things come up that are negative, how do you act? Like, sometimes I forget. My husband has to remind me. He's like, we're going to win. How do you act if you believe something is going to happen? You really have to think about that.
I love it. I posted about something like that. I was like, what do you truly believe about yourself? And then, like, I had some things on there, and they're like, well, yeah. I was like, oh no. It's like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I really appreciate that. I think that's huge. So one of the things that I would love you to address is, if you are at work, I'm looking at my little cheat sheet here. If you are at work and you are trying to decipher, am I not getting the promotion because of white supremacy and racism? Or am I not getting the promotion because I truly have some more skills that I need to gain before I'm ready to go to that next step? Like, I can believe into myself all till the cows come home, but likely with that belief, you also see where you can go to keep growing so that you can get to the next level and next level. So what would you say, like, when you're working with your clients and they're saying, you know, it's just so hard because of this or that, like, when do you have to say, here's how you can kind of tell? It sounds like that situation is definitely one where it's white privilege. They are not listening. You know, how could you help us understand, just small, because I know everyone's going to have a nuanced way, but is there something that you can share to help the women, like, feel more confident in knowing, yeah, that's really what it's about, versus no, like, you just actually need to get this next skill and it sounds like they're ready for you. You just need to be, I don't know.
Yeah. So I think it's 3 things. I think the first is you need to assess. You need to assess the facts. So what is the promotion criteria and do you meet them? Like, what have your performance review ratings been? Are you even giving 100%? Are there people who are outperforming you? What's the feedback you've been getting? Like, really assess these things. And I think we just skip over to, oh, it's not fair, they hate me, or they're being racist or whatever. And sometimes we just skip that first part. It's like, no, you're actually not ready. The criteria says you need to be in your role for a year. You need to have gotten exceeds expectations for the past 2 cycles. You need to have owned a project, led a team. You haven't done that. And that's why you're not getting promoted. So I think the first thing is to just assess and understand the facts. Take your feelings out of it. What are the facts? What do you want? What do I need for promotion? What do other people do? Am I doing those things? Am I on par? Once you've done that kind of assessment, and you say, okay, I actually check these things off above that, above and beyond, then I think you move into the next phase, which is looking for patterns. So are there other Black women who are doing what they should do and they're not getting promoted, other women, other, whatever the demographic is, and you're like, there's a pattern that even though we are performing and doing things and exceeding expectations, we're still not getting promoted. And patterns is like 3, 4, 5. I'm talking patterns, not just one time this happened or whatever. Really understand the pattern. Because the tricky thing is, we can look on the outside, but we don't know the nuances. There have been people who I thought were just amazing and actually getting in behind the scenes, like, no, they're actually underperforming, or they actually this or that. So we don't know the full story. You don't know who's has a legal constraint battle, and so they had to promote. I've been in HR, I know where the skeletons are buried. You literally have no idea. So look for patterns, look for consistent behavior in doing this. And then if you see that, no, this is a pattern, there's so many people who are deserving and they're not getting it, then I think it's then trusting your gut, right? Because oftentimes when we're dealing with white supremacy, when we're dealing with racism, when we're dealing with these things, we have a gut feeling, we have an intuition. We can't put our finger on it sometimes, but we just know, like, this is what it is. And if you are feeling like, okay, I'm being passed over, it's a pattern, and my gut is saying that actually it's because they don't have the budget, that's one thing. If my gut is saying that, no, they're just racist and they don't value me as a Black woman, then okay, leave. Again, exit strategy, leave tomorrow, leave in 6 months. But I think it's really just going through that process of unpacking what it is that you're seeing. I think they go straight to, oh, this is wrong, and they don't assess, they don't look for patterns, they don't just really check in with themselves to see, what do I really think is going on here? And so I think going through that process really helps you to navigate and understand what it is that you're actually working through.
That's really helpful. Thank you. I know we have several people watching, and so anyone, if you're watching right now, please ask your questions. I know that Dorianne would be more than happy to answer any of them. And if you're watching this later, you can hashtag replay, but we won't have Dorianne in person anymore. So if you are on watching, just ask your question. Don't feel silly about it. There are probably some dumb questions, but it doesn't matter, because sometimes you just have to use your voice and allow it to be feeling weird. So out of all the things that we've discussed, we've kind of hit a lot of areas. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you think, generally speaking, when it comes to careers, when it comes to a woman owning their worth and their value and getting the promotion or moving to where, or changing, like pivoting, what is there anything we haven't discussed yet that is like a big piece that people should consider?
I think it is just that you're allowed to change your mind. You went down a path for 15 years. This was the industry you were in, or the career you were in. You're allowed to pivot and change. You thought you wanted to do a side hustle, but now you want to be a full-time entrepreneur. You can change. And so it's okay to, and this kind of ties everything in. Once you're clear about what you want, once you've owned your voice, you've done the reflection, you've had your strategy, you've done all the things, you can still change. And so it's giving yourself grace again to be able to lean into wherever you are in your life, in your career. Today, I'm a full-time entrepreneur. Who knows in 5 years if I saw this amazing dream role and I'm back on the corporate scene. I know people who are afraid to quit jobs because I made this big announcement about coming here and now I'm going to quit. People are going to think, you're allowed to change your mind. And so even with all the work you do, the reflection and the strategizing and all of those sorts of things, you're a dynamic human being. Life changes, seasons change, and so your career is allowed to reflect those changes.
Yes. I think that is really important. Changing your mind is totally okay. And that just goes again with your voice and being in alignment with your voice and being able to speak your truth.
Yeah.
And that's great. So we got a comment that somebody, and I think that I don't know, I have a feeling about this. So you comment, and then I might comment if you don't say what I say, but I love my job. I keep getting more work in my job because of trust. I do need to make more money, but I don't care about money. I'm not competitive. What would you say to this comment?
I would want to unpack that because to me, what I hear a lot of times when people say I don't care about money and all those sorts of things, is because they have some sort of story around what making money means. That I'm greedy, that I am whatever. There's like 120 limiting money beliefs, and
Only 120?
and it's probably something of that. Money in and of itself is not a bad thing. More money equals more opportunities, more impact you can make, more ways to take care of yourself and your family, etc. So I don't want the money. To me, it's like, okay, let's unpack this. Like, let's talk about it. What does that mean, etc. Wanting money does not mean that that's all you think about. You're obsessed by it and all of those sorts of things. But I don't understand why someone would not want more money opens up so many doors and opportunities. So why would I not want more opportunities and doors open? So I would say, let's talk about it. And it's also probably a belief or a story. Obviously, I don't know this person. So just from my, my expertise and opinion, thinking that I can't have a job that I love and have money at the same time. So since I found the love piece, I'm happy with that. I don't really care about money. So there's just a lot of things I would want to tackle there.
Yeah, you went right where I would have gone to. What I would say is we just want you to understand that you don't have to, it's not like a one or the other. And it's not just with the job. Like, this is just in life. We all have interesting money relationships. And some of us, our relationship with money is like we make a lot of it, but then because we make so much money, we feel like we don't deserve some relationships. Well, so there's just like money, and in the different aspects of your life is just a place that you want to consider and keep looking at. And I appreciate your statement, because obviously when you work with women who are like, but I really just want to make sure I'm doing something that I feel is important to the world and helpful, and because they're so caring, right? And it doesn't matter how much money I make, or I don't feel bad about it or something. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, let's just talk about it and open the idea that getting paid well for what you do is definitely okay. It doesn't have to be one way or the other. So I'm glad that that's what you were addressing. um So, and this person wait a second, I'm not down. Yeah. No, they're like, wait, no, but I don't want to not make more. Like, I don't want to make less than I'm making. It's like, of course, we just want to let you know that you are deserving of being paid well for the work that you do, and that it doesn't have, like, in your mind, just notice how you think about it, because that's a huge piece
Yeah.
of how it goes.
And even saying, and not saying that you want to make less or anything that, but even saying things like I don't care about money, it just kind of just limits it. So who's to
Yeah.
say that there wasn't like some swirl or promotion or something coming, but I don't care about the money, I don't really want it, like I just want to, and then it's kind of like stopping the possibility of what's happening. So I think Mary's point around just paying attention to it and seeing what it is, I think is spot on.
And I can say too, because you have no idea, and we had a speaker last week who came and talked about, like money and wealth and all of that. And just the idea of like, well, okay, maybe your money doesn't solely come from your job.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's coming from somewhere else, but just keep that relationship with money more open and more like a mutual respect, and you're going to notice how more of it might show up in your life. So yeah, I'm glad that you talked about that. um so is there anything else that we should share about what you are it's either that we haven't talked about or what you are up to and where people can hear more from you?
Yeah. So my website is yourcareergirl.com. And I have a podcast called Deeper Than Work where I share actionable, like I'm super, super focused on, it's not just to feel good, but actionable strategies on how to level up in your career. You can find that at deeperthanwork.com. And yeah, I hang out mostly on, well, I'm having a situation with social media where I'm trying to break up with it. But for now, most of my time is spent on Instagram at Your Career Girl.
Great. Well, Dorianne, this has been so awesome. I just feel so blessed that you joined us today, and I know that some people are going to be listening to this and just little nuggets are going to start seeping into their consciousness, and they're going to go, "Oh, I could look at it this way, or I could maybe think about that, or have I looked at the facts versus my own feelings with whatever it is, I think all of that is just truly beneficial to moving forward in your career because, as you stated right when we got on this call, a lot of us spend a lot of time working.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're going to be spending this time working, let's try to make it as pleasurable and mutually beneficial as possible because, we are not just this like a worker bee. Like we bring our whole selves to work and we want to have work feed us as well as us helping hopefully make the business a better place. So,
Yes, 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 absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
yay. Well, I'm just going to stop our live and then I'm going to chat with you for a second.